Hi, everybody. How are you? Nate, can I be big, please?
Yes. Now you can. I wasn't able to do it before because it was just us in the call, but now I can do that. 1 second.
Awesome. It's so good to see everybody, you guys. I am seeing so many familiar faces, and I'm so happy that you guys have allowed me to be part of your Saturday and to be part of your creative journey. For those of you who are new to me and my classes, my name is Sarah, and I am a designer for Beadalon, and I am here with Michael's to show you guys some great projects. If you have not seen any of my projects before, like Nate said, these are all on the Michael's YouTube channel, so you can always go back and watch the others. And I highly recommend checking out the other instructors as well, whether it's jewelry making or painting or drawing. There are some really amazing classes that are available, and they're always really fun to watch. But there's nothing like being live, right? That being said, I want to give everybody a heads up. It is about to storm here, so if you hear any thunder, that's what's going on in the background here. And I'm crossing my fingers that we don't lose any internet connection, because it literally just started like thundering a moment ago. So for today's project, we are putting together a really fun one. This one, I have a feeling it's going to go by pretty quickly because this is a fairly easy project, but don't let that deceive you. Even though this is easy, this is still a lot of fun. If you've got any aggression at all, this is a great project to like kind of get out your inner aggression, because we're going to be hammering. And it's one of my favorite things to do in jewelry making. So I'm really looking forward to showing that to you guys. We're going to be using some really thick gauge wire to make some components, and then we're going to hammer them and add some texture to them. And we're going to be doing a knotted head pin, which is one of my other favorite things to show you guys how to do. So I hope you are ready. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn you guys around, and we will get right to work. So you don't need a lot of materials for today's project, but I do want to hit on a few of the ones that you're going to need. So I've chosen some of these beads. I love these, absolutely love these. These are some bead landing beads. And I love, there were actually more of these on the card. I've used some of these, as you can tell, but I'm using a whole little section here. You can change this up and do this however you want to, but for our earring, I'll even show you the sample. We're going to use one of those little sections that's the 3 bicones and then the shell bead. I thought it was the perfect little addition to our project. And you can see we're using some heavy duty wire. So these are the beads that I'm going to be using for the project, but you can change this up and use whatever you want to. Michael's has a huge selection of beads, so no problems finding something that speaks to you there. All right, the next thing you're going to need is some wire. We're using some 12 gauge artistic wire. Now that's heavy duty, right? This is really serious wire. And fortunately for us, we don't have to move this around too much. We're just going to make a couple of loops. We're going to do 2 loops, and then we're going to create this teardrop shape. So you don't have to stress about using extra Superman strength on this, because we're not going to be doing a whole lot of manipulation when it comes to creating our component. But you do want some heavy duty wire so that when we flatten this out, we've got a nice large work surface to then texturize rather. The next thing you're going to need is a little bit of 22 gauge wire. I'm using some 22 gauge German style wire. This is my go-to for all of my wrapping, my wrapped loops and things like that. So that's what we're going to be creating our knotted head pin out of. And for those of you who have never seen a knotted head pin, that is what is holding our beads together here. So instead of just buying a pre-made head pin, I'm going to show you how to create your own and why that would be something that you would, a good skill to have, right, for your jewelry making. All right, then you're going to need a couple of other things. To create this kind of teardrop shape, you can use whatever you want, whatever you can find. I recommend something that's around 17 millimeters. So what I found in my office was just a dry erase marker. So I'm going to use a dry erase marker as my mandrel to create this kind of deep U shape. Whatever you've got will work. Okay, it doesn't have to be a wooden dowel or anything like that. Use what you've got on hand. The next thing is you're going to need a steel block of some variety. We've got to have this to shape our wire. And of course, you're going to need a hammer. And I'm using a chasing hammer that has both the flat side and the round side. We're going to use both sides of this. The other thing, other than just your standard tools, which is your pliers, your round nose pliers, is some pliers that have different sized portions on them. This is the stepped bell making pliers. And I'm going to be using the smallest portion of these to create consistent loops on either side of my component here. And that's really important. That's why I'm choosing to use a tool like this versus my round nose pliers, because the round nose pliers are tapered. If you don't have something like this, or you don't have another small, very thin dowel or something that you can use, you can mark your round nose pliers with a permanent marker, and you just want to mark that, just mark it, make a little spot so that when you go to make your loops on either side of your component, that they are exactly the same. That's going to give you consistency in your loops. And it, you know, because sometimes you just kind of guess, right? But because of that taper, sometimes your loops won't be the same. So that's just a quick little trick to solve that problem. All right, so let's get started with this. This is going to go by pretty quickly, but it's a lot of fun, and I hope that I inspire you to do some more texturizing in your work. So we're going to need a 5-inch piece of that artistic wire. And again, you'll notice I'm saying artistic wire, not German style wire, which is what a lot of people are used to seeing me use, but I'm using artistic wire for this. I don't even think the German style wire comes in a gauge this thick. You're going to need 5 inches of this. And we're going to start very simply with the smallest mandrel of our tool here. And we're just going to create a loop on either end of our wire. Now, again, before you get started, this is thick wire. It takes a lot. It really does. So I'm going to really slow and create a closed loop. Okay. We don't need to straighten it up. We don't need to center our wire or anything like that. We just want to create a P shape, a backwards P shape, depending on how you're looking at it. Okay. Now we're going to be doing that on the other side. Okay. And we want it to be facing the same direction. So grabbing that 12 gauge wire with our tool. And again, we're going to turn a loop. You can see I'm struggling with this wire because it's very, very thick, very, very thick. Okay. Now, the next thing we want to do is we just want to create this shape, right? This teardrop shape. And we are going to just use a marker to do that. Super, super easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to place it up against whatever mandrel or marker or whatever it is that you're using. And I'm going to find the middle and I'm going to hold on to it with my thumb just to kind of hold it in place. I'm not worried about what direction my loops are facing or anything like that at the moment, because all of those things can be changed. So I'm just going to grab the two ends with my index finger and my thumb, and I'm just going to give them a bend, right? I'm just going to bend around our mandrel, whatever that may be. And we have this shape, but you can see my loops are facing the wrong way. That's okay. We can totally fix that. But more importantly, we've got this perfect kind of teardrop shape that we need. So now I'm going to come in with my chain nose pliers, and I'm just going to grab. You can use your nylon jaw pliers for this if you want to, if you don't want to mark up your metal, but we're going to texturize it anyway. But I'm going to grab one of those loops, and I'm just very, very gently going to turn it outwards, right? It was that easy. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here on the other side. So I'm going to grab, kind of awkward, but I'm going to grab that loop, and I'm just going to give it a twist, right? To twist it outwards. And now I've got the shape that I want, and I can really kind of squeeze it together, pull it apart, do whatever you need to do to manipulate it and turn it into the shape that you want. Okay. All right. Now comes the fun part. This is the best part of the whole project, and that is putting it on our block. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to flatten this with the flat end of our hammer. Okay, so use the flat end first. And we are going to tap all along the surface of the wire. So our wire is round. We want to make it nice and flat. A couple of things. First, I'm going to lift you up so I don't hit the camera with the hammer, but a couple of things are going to happen. You're going to notice that it's going to make some little indentions, right? That's okay, because remember, we're going to texture this some more, so don't worry about those things. But we're also going to work harden this as we go, because we're really, really going to be hitting this hard. So I definitely suggest that you get the shape that you want and commit before you start hitting this with the hammer, because even though this is 12 gauge wire and it's really, really strong, the more we hit it with the hammer, the stronger it's going to get. So make sure you've committed to that shape that you want. All right, so what we've done is we have just taken a wire that was round and now we have flattened out the top surface of it. Pretty cool. It's still round for the most part on the back. It's a little flattened down here in the bend of our wire, but it is most definitely flat on this top surface that we're using. And you can see we flattened it, but we didn't really change it too much. It didn't pancake it by any means, right? It's still a nice and thick wire. That's why we're using this 12 gauge wire, because it can really take a lot of hammering. Your thinner gauge wires are not going to be able to stand up to a lot of that. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add texture to this by using the ball end of the hammer. So using the ball end, we're just going to tap all around the surface of the component, and that's going to create these little dimples, these little texture spots. And you can do as many or as few as you want. I like a lot. I like a lot of them. But part of that is because I really enjoy hammering my wire. Like I said, if you've got any built up aggression, this is a great way to kind of channel that. So I'm just going to tap all around, and you'll see it starting to bow a little bit. That's okay. All of these things can be adjusted after we get all the texture that we want. I'm just working my way around. Okay, we're almost done. Okay, now I'm going to stop and take a look at it. And you can see, I'll hold it up here close for you guys to see. You can see all of that texture that we've added just with the rounded part of a hammer. It's pretty amazing, actually. If you've never played with a hammer before with your wire or any kind of metal surface, it's pretty cool stuff. And it really is kind of an addictive thing to do. And I don't know that it has anything to do with, channeling your aggression, but I just think that it is fascinating. To me personally, it's fascinating to see the structure of what was a round wire completely change just by some of the manipulations that you can do to it, right? It doesn't take a machine to do that. We actually did that. We hammered and made all of those little texturized places in the wire. It's just amazing to me. So it's enjoyable, but it's also kind of fascinating if you're into that kind of thing. I've said it once, I'll say it a million times. I'm kind of a jewelry nerd. So these kinds of things really excite me. Now you will notice a couple of things. Our teardrop shape has kind of opened up a little bit, and our loops here that were once closed have opened a little bit. That's okay. We can fix all of these things. Just remember that because we work hardened, it is a little bit stiffer this time around than it was. So it does take a little extra strength to close those loops up. And then if you want to kind of squeeze it back into the shape that you want. Okay. And you'll notice my loops they're fairly similar, but they're not twins. Okay. They're not twins. They're cousins. And I'm okay with that. As far as the shape, or as far as the size of the loop is concerned, they're the same. But as far as like the actual shape of those, they're not exactly the same. But once you put your earring together, you're never going to notice that there are any discrepancies in your loops here. But I still highly, highly recommend either marking your round nose pliers or using a plier like this where it is not tapered. Okay. All right, so if you wanted to, at this point, you can turn it over and texturize on the back if you want to. I'm not going to, but you can. And if you're going to make a pendant, perhaps instead of an earring, and you're going to be in a situation where you may be able to see the front and the back, you absolutely can texture the back of this as well if you want to, but I'm just going to stick to the front, okay? All right, so this part is complete. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a knotted head pin for our beads. And believe it or not, we're almost done. This is a very, very short project, but I think the results are awesome. So we're going to take that 5-inch piece of 22 gauge wire that I mentioned at the beginning. I'm using the German style wire, which is different, right? It's different than the artistic wire that we create, or that we used for our component. And I'm going to create a knotted head pin here. Now, can you buy a head pin and just use one that's already made? You absolutely can. But I like to make my own for a couple of reasons. With the silvers, it's not that big of an issue, but I have found a lot of times that when I am working with gold or with copper or an artistic wire that's in a different color, it's really hard to find matching findings. Even when it's something as simple as a gold color, the gold comes in so many different styles, right? You can get like a warm gold, or you can get a soft gold, or you get a brassy gold or a yellow gold. And a lot of times they don't all match. Like my jump rings and my ear wires and my head pins, they all seem to be kind of a different shape, or a shade rather. So being able to make your own components kind of takes all of that frustration out, right? You can make your own knotted head pins, your own eye pins, and know that all of your wires are going to be the same color and they're going to match. So let me show you how to do that. You're going to need your round nose pliers, a pair of chain nose pliers, and you're also going to need some nylon jaw pliers. You cannot do this without nylon jaw pliers, so please don't try. Let me show you, and I'll tell you why when we get to that point. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the very tip of our 22 gauge wire and the very, very tip of our round nose pliers. Okay, and we're going to grab that wire right at the tip of both. That's really important. Don't come down this direction. Don't start here. You want the tip of the wire and the tip of the round nose pliers. We're going to take that and we are going to roll that wire around the pliers one time, completely all the way around. And how do I know? Because I can see that little cut in the wire. So I know that I've gone around once. Now we're going to go around a second time, all the way around. And then I want to stop where I see the flush cut in the wire again. So I know that I have coiled around the tip of the pliers 2 times. Okay. Now, before I take this wire off of the tool, I'm going to take the wire and I'm going to bend it underneath the coils and out away from the handle of the tools. This is the part where everybody gets a little mixed up. Don't bend this direction. You want that bend to go underneath the 2 wraps, the 2 coils that you made, right? So the wire is actually going away from your hand and the tool. Now you want to take it off of the tool. You've got your little coil here, and you want to take the tail end of your wire and you want to bend it around, and you want to stick it through those 2 loops that you just made. Okay. pull it through. So you're making like a little lasso, right? It's like a little lasso out of your wire. What we're doing actually is we're tying a knot in our wire, but we can't do this with our fingers alone, and we can't do this with regular pliers. This is why we need our nylon jaw pliers. So we're going to take those nylon jaw pliers, we're going to grab the wire right next to the coils. Make sure those coils are sitting right up against this nylon, okay? No extra wiggle room in there. Okay, now where the wire is coming through the jaws of these pliers, I want to take a pair of pliers, another pair. I like to use my bent chain nose, but it makes no difference. And I'm going to pull, and I'm going to pull, 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 and then I'm going to pull real tight at the end, and that's going to pull a knot into the end of our wire, which it makes a decorative little rosette. It's really pretty, you know, it's definitely not an ugly, big, bulky knot. Now, why the nylon jaw pliers? If you use regular pliers in place of nylon jaw pliers to pull that wire through, you're going to strip that outer coating on your wire, and you are going to end up with this like nasty kind of porcupine wire. So you got to have the nylon jaw pliers to do this trick. Okay, so when you take this off of the tool, or you take it away from the pliers, you're going to notice that your wire is actually centered in that knot. That's why instead of just coiling around and then bending the wire, I'm not a huge fan of that. I like to actually pull the wire through the actual knot so that it's nice and centered. That knot sits in the center, not off to one side or the other. Okay. All right, now we are going to bring in some of our beads, and I'm just going to cut these off of the card. Where's my cutter tool? Okay, so I'm just going to cut these right off. You can use as many beads as you want to. I gave you guys an extra long piece of wire for those of you who were not used to making a knotted head pin, and because we are stacking several beads here, but you really don't need nearly as much wire as what I have cut. I'm going to thread on this beautiful bead, the shell bead. Look how pretty that is. So pretty. I'm going to drop that down, and you can see it's going to sit so nicely right on that knotted head pin that we just created. And then I'm going to thread on 3 bicones. So I'm basically just using the same pattern that was on the card with the beads. I'm just going to leave it just like it is because I like it. Looks good. All right, now we're going to do a wrapped loop. I'm going to trim off some of this wire because this is an excessive amount of wire. Okay. All right, I'm going to come in with my chain nose pliers, and I am grabbing that wire right where it is exiting that top bead. Okay, and I'm going to bend the wire over the top of those pliers. The reason I do that is so that when I take the pliers away, I have a little space here between the top of the beads and the bend in the wire. That's the perfect amount of space to make wraps with our wrapped loop. So I don't have to pre-measure. I don't have to guess. I let the tool do all of the hard work, all the math that I can't stand. I let the tool do that part for me. Okay. I'm going to come in with my round nose pliers. I'm grabbing the wire. It's also the perfect place for my round nose pliers. And I'm going to take that wire and I'm going to guide it up and over the top barrel of the pliers. So I'm not moving the tool, I'm only moving the wire, and I'm taking it up and over the top barrel of the pliers. But in order to make a loop, you can see the bottom barrel of my pliers is in the way, right? I can't take this wire over there to close that loop up because that's in the way. So I just want to rotate my pliers. I'm not taking them away from the wire. All I'm doing is just kind of rotating them in my hand and taking that bottom barrel and now making it the top barrel. That makes a space for me to take the wire on over to the other side to close up my loop, right? Okay, so I'm going to put this back on the tool and I'm going to switch hands, and I'm going to use my chain nose pliers to grab this wire. And again, that space that was already made there for me with the tool, I'm going to make wire wraps in between that loop and the top of the bead. There should be room for about 3 wraps. You could probably get 4, but I don't want to push it because I don't want to accidentally crack the top of my bead. Okay, so now that I've made my wrapped loop, I'm going to come in with my cutter tool and I'm going to trim off the excess wire. So coming in, trimming that off. Trim as close as you can get. And if you still have any little piece of wire that's sticking out, you want to come in with your pliers and just kind of bite down on it a little bit and tuck it in. And now we have our little beaded center for our earring. We're almost done. Now, the only thing that's left to do is just to put all of this together. And we're going to do that with some 6mm jump rings. You're going to need 4 and an ear wire. And I'm actually going to have to borrow an ear wire here off of a earring I already made because I forgot to grab one. So we've got our ear wire. I'm using the lever back ear wires, and I'm using 4 6mm jump rings to put this together. Okay, so I'm going to grab another pair of pliers, and I'll show you our sample so you can see how our jump rings are set up. Okay, so I'm going to take a jump ring between 2 pairs of pliers, and I'm just going to twist to open my jump ring, and I'm going to put that on the top of our little beaded dangle, and then I'm going to close that back. Okay, so there's 1 out of the 4 of our jump rings. Okay, the next 2 jump rings I'm going to put on either loop on my component, right? So I'm going to hook a jump ring here. I'm going to close that back. I'm going to do the same thing over here on the other side. So I'm going to open that jump ring, hook it onto the loop, close that back. And I'm going to take my final jump ring, and this one has the biggest job out of all of them. I'm going to open this jump ring, and what I want is I want to grab the loop or the jump ring on top of our beaded section, right? And then I also want to attach to each one of the jump rings on either side of the component, just like that. Okay, and then last but not least, we're going to take our ear wire and we are going to thread that on, and we're going to close our jump ring back, and that's it. That's it. The only thing left to do now is just to repeat all of these steps to create the mate for your earring, right? And these are super cool. These are kind of like boutique earrings, right? This is like something you would see in a little shop, little gallery downtown. That's what this reminds me of. But we were able to do this super quick on our own, right? With just a couple of things. All we needed was some beautiful beads, some great wire, and a hammer, and a couple of tools. And we were able to put together these really fun earrings that have lots of texture, lots and lots of texture, not just from the component itself, but from those beads as well. All right, so that's it. I'm going to turn you guys around, and I'm going to put these on so you can see what they look like, because they do look different than they look hanging, or I'm sorry, laying flat here. And then if we've got any questions, I know Meredith is here, Nate is here. So they may have caught some questions that I didn't see. They can let me know if there's anything that I can answer for you guys. But I hope you've enjoyed this project. I think it was fun. It's nice and easy. Definitely falls under the category of instant gratification jewelry for me, because they can be worked up so quickly. How pretty are those? A couple of people I can see are asking to see a knotted head pin again. I would be more than happy to do that for you guys. So give me just a second. I'll show you these earrings, and then I'll turn you back around, and we'll do that real quick, and then I'll let you guys go for the day. Okay. Aren't they pretty? I think they turned out really well. All right. So let me do that. And if there are any other questions, you guys, now's the time. So I'll turn you back around. We can do this quickly, right? This doesn't take much. It does take a piece of wire though. So let me grab a piece of wire. All right, so you can do this with any gauge wire that you want. 22 gauge is always my preference, but you guys can do this with any gauge. Just remember that the thicker the gauge, the bigger and the chunkier it's going to be, okay? And that may not be a good thing for your design, just kind of depending. All right, so again, my 22 gauge wire, I'm grabbing the wire at the tip of the wire and the tip of the pliers. Okay, super important that's where you start. We're going to roll the wire around the tip of the pliers once, all the way around. Okay, and I can tell because I can see the cut in that wire. Now I'm going to roll around again a second time, going underneath that first wrap, So I want to stop again where I can see the cut in the wire. So I've made 2 coils, right? 2 coils in that wire. Now don't take this off of the pliers because that's where you're going to get messed up and you're going to bend the wire in the wrong direction. Okay. Leave it on the tool just like this and bend the wire underneath those coils and away from your hand and the handles of the tools. Okay. Now you can take it off of the pliers. You're going to take the tail end of that wire and you're going to bend it backwards and stick it through the 2 coils that you made to make your little lasso. Okay. And then you want to come in with those nylon jaw pliers, most important part of the entire process here. And you're going to pull the wire. You're pulling it through the loop and you're pulling it through the jaws of those pliers. Okay. And when you get to the end, you want to pull kind of tight. You can see I'm kind of shaking the tool a little bit. That's how tight I'm pulling to pull that knot right into the end of that wire. And that gives you a little knot, a little head pin that you can then use for whatever beads or whatever little things you want to add. And that's it. Right. And of course, if you use a smaller one, a smaller gauge wire, you're going to end up with a smaller knot. So if that's too big of a knot for this little bead, you can go with a 24 gauge wire if you want to. I just caution that if you're going to use a thinner gauge wire, when you're pulling that knot right at the end, just don't over pull because you'll snap your wire. So just be mindful of that. But that's it, you guys. That's all there is to it. It's a great little trick to have, right? But it's also a great, accent to this trick as well, which is just a really cool component that wasn't hard to make and just using that texture, right? All right, I'm going to turn you around again. This time I am going to say my goodbyes to you guys. I hope you have enjoyed the class. I hope that I've inspired you and I hope that you'll go and not be intimidated by those thick gauge wires, right? I know a lot of people look at those and they're like, oh, that stuff is so thick and so heavy. I'll never be able to use it for anything. But I got to tell you, it's the perfect thickness to create texture because I don't have to worry that I'm going to hammer it so hard that I'm going to break through it or that it's going to snap on me. So if you've got some of the thick gauge wire or you don't have any, I recommend it. It's fun just to watch how you can change the surface of a once round piece of wire. It's pretty cool. All right, that's it for me. I hope that you have enjoyed this project, this class. If you make these, post them, of course, hashtag make it with Michaels or hashtag Beadalon. We definitely want to see what you are creating out there, what you have, or how you've been inspired from all of our classes here at Michaels. So don't forget to do that. And yeah, that's it. I'll be back again soon with another fun class for you guys. And I thank you for letting me be a part of your Saturday. Bye, guys.